Prisoner B-3087, Afterword. While the story of Jack Greener is true and remarkable, this book is a work of fiction. As an author, I've taken some liberties with time and events to paint a fuller and more representative picture of the Holocaust as a whole. All this was done with Jack's blessing, so that the horrors and realities of the Holocaust beyond those that he personally experienced would not be forgotten. Jack did, in fact, survive the harsh conditions of the Krakow ghetto by living in a pigeon coop with his parents. He baked bread under cover of night with his aunt and uncle, had his bar mitzvah in a basement, and watched his parents, deported by the Nazis, never to see them alive again. At Plazal, Jack hid under the floorboards from Amon Goth and was inexplicably spared by the madman when he emerged. Even more incredibly, while Jack was at Plazal, he worked for a time at the very same enamelware factory where German businessman Oskar Schindler saved hundreds of Jews from extermination. Schindler was able to protect the Jews who worked there because Goth made enough money off the factory to look the other way. But Jack was transferred away from Plazal a mere 3 months before Schindler began protecting his workers from the Nazis. Jack only learned how close he was to salvation years later when the true story of Schindler's List was told. Jack then went on to survive 9 more concentration camps. At Wolitzka, he tooled beside the famous salt statues that became a tourist attraction after the war. At Birkenau, he waited under the gas heads for death, only to be showered with cold water instead. At Auschwitz, Jack came face to face with the infamous Nazi monster Joseph Mengele and lived. Jack endured slavery and starvation, death marches, and cattle cars, Allied bombings, and Nazi beatings. One of the more than 1.5 million Jewish children living in Europe before the war, Jack was one of only 500,000 to survive. After the war, Jack immigrated to America and became an American citizen. Less than a year after he became a citizen, he was drafted into the U.S. Army and sent to Korea to fight in the Korean War. There he survived again, this time with a gun in his hands and a pack on his back, all the while keeping up his promised correspondence with the Gamser family, who had at last immigrated to America. When Jack's 2 years in the Army were up, he came to visit the Gamsers in New York City. He discovered that little Lencia, the girl he had met in Munich, who always sat in the corner reading a book, had grown up into a beautiful young woman. Jack fell in love with Lencia, who had since changed her name to Ruth, and in a few months they were married. Jack and Ruth now live in Brooklyn, New York. They have 2 sons and 4 grandchildren. Together, Jack and Ruth travel the country to speak about their experiences in the Holocaust. I had the pleasure of meeting Jack and Ruth while working on this book, and it is my honor to write about Jack's life so the generations that follow will never forget. Jack still bears a tattoo with the number the Nazis gave him, B-3087, but it is his name, Jack Greener, that lives on. It was a pleasure reading this book to you guys, Prisoner B-3087 by Alan Gratz. I highly recommend it. Here's the information for it. And like I said, it was a complete honor and joy to be able to read this to you, and more importantly, to actually share it with my students that I teach. This was a great tool for them to be able to log on and be able to see the videos and hear the story at their convenience, and also we used it in class as well. Like I said, it was a pure pleasure, and I hope that you will get this book and that you'll study it and read it and just really, really, truly learn about the Holocaust. There's many people who try and discredit and discount the Holocaust, say it didn't happen, or even go as far as to say that it was made up. But there's so much proof just to prove that it was true. And it's our job to expose the truths of the Holocaust to everyone who will listen, and to make sure that these people are not forgotten and that we never let history repeat itself. Even with all the things going on in the world today, it's especially important that we learn from the Holocaust. We learn from this hatred and from the racist acts that were shown in the Holocaust, and that we go on to make a difference, and that we make sure that we never treat people this way, and that we never let these things happen. So I encourage you, visit any Holocaust museum you can. We're here in Dallas, so we're fortunate enough to have the Dallas Holocaust Museum, which is absolutely amazing. If you're ever in the area, please go see it. My goal is to go to every Holocaust museum there is, and also to travel to the concentration camps to actually see the footage for myself. There's many great resources on the internet. I strongly encourage you to listen to survivors' stories. Millions of people can't be all telling a lie, and when they've experienced the horrors that this book talks about, and the horrors that there's documentation, there's video footage, there's photographs of. So I just encourage you to do research and to teach your children and friends and family about this if they don't already know, and just make sure that these wonderful people are never forgotten, and that these horrible acts are never ever repeated again. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please subscribe if you would like, and I will keep making more and more videos to share. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.